Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and the host for this week's podcast. And it is the 27th of January, but honestly, it feels like the 100th day of January. I don't know if it's just the holidays make things pass by so fast. Um, and that you're in the office for a good solid month, but it has been the longest month. And thankfully, I will say that, thankfully, it has been the longest month. Lot to do on the Alabama Bass Trail in the month of January, not just preparing for the ABT 100 and the other season that's coming up in a couple weeks, but we undergo an audit every year, and it's always the third weekend January, and so dealing with that, and it's a volunteer audit. We do this every year as part of being a nonprofit organization. We have an independent auditor that comes in and looks at all of our books and our tourism books, as well as our tournament series books. So there's a lot of things he needs. A lot of things, from invoices that we've paid to contracts that we've signed to people who've signed contracts with us. It's just a lot. And then on top of that, we have about 300 or so 1099s that have to be sent out. Some we didn't have Social Security numbers for, not many, but some. And then mailing addresses that's changed and all the things. So there's a lot to do in January. And if you don't run an organization, similar to the Alabama Bass Trail, it's hard to understand all of those first of the year duties. That's on top of ordering all of the apparel to sell, on top of ordering all the gear for the guys, um, the materials that we need, the chemicals that we need, the backdrops that we need, the signage that we need, the big checks, the actual checks, the trophies, the everything else, the insurance and all of that. There's just a lot that takes place from the time we shut down in June, but really in January is when we probably are the busiest getting ready and preparing for this season. So if you've called and you haven't gotten me in the office, I apologize for that. Certainly my cell phone number and the email is the best way to get me. But it has been a quite busy time frame. So anyway, it is awful busy, and talking with our partners and talking with our anglers, it's been the same way for them. So it's not that we're any different from anyone else. But I mentioned a couple of podcasts back of some of the ABT anglers that decided this year they wanted to jump into the Bassmaster Opens, and the first Open of Division One was this weekend, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit, just talking about some of the news that's going on in the fishing industry. Lucas Lindsay, who started off with a bang at Lake Jordan last year, followed that up at Lake Martin and still finished in the top, I think, 15 in the ABT South Division, made his jump to the Opens. He finished third at Clark's Hill, came in with a monster 23-pound bag on day two to secure that third place finish. Matt Adams, who had a win at the ABT 100, traveled immediately over to Clark's Hill, had an 18th place finish. Tyler Malone, part of that Malone and Cade Law team, on the ABT South, he finished in 20th place. Hunter Davidson made the jump as well. I think Hunter's still fishing with us in the South Division as well, finished 53rd. And then there are other names in the field that you recognize from being on the Alabama Bass Trail, whether it be Gerald Swindle, John Pollard, Mitch Mitchell. And I mean, there's a lot of other Alabama guys there too. Russ Lane, Laker Howell, I think Tristan McCormick, I may have seen there. Yeah, there's a lot of names there from Alabama, but these guys are traditionally on the Alabama Bass Trail, so we always can pick their names out ahead of time. Looking at some of the other lakes, there's not a lot going on in the fishing industry right now. If you know, this is the time of the year that you're going to boat shows, tackle shows, fishing shows from Knoxville, Tennessee, and unfortunately, we were unable to be there this year. We're just unfortunately just snowed under, just so much to do. A lot of that is the TV and the live that we bring you. It has added a whole lot to our plate in trying to get all those contracts secured, teams secured, boats secured, all the things. It's a lot. And so this year we were just unable to make it. I did get a chance to go down to the Birmingham Boat Show and see a couple of our partners there, and got to see some of the anglers that fish with us. And that was fun. I haven't been to that show probably in 10 years. And it was a little slower than I would have liked to have seen on a Friday, but great people there. A lot of people buying boats. some buying pontoon boats, but we saw several bass boats being sold. So that's an encouraging thing for our industry. So did get to spend a little bit of time down there. So just wasn't a lot of tournament action going on. I think that's why the live got such good coverage at Bassmasters. But I did see a couple of tournaments on the Tennessee River. I didn't see any on the Coosa River or South Alabama. So Pickwick Lake, probably because they were snowed in. They were still kind of getting out of the snow. But Pickwick Lake, I saw where Ben Webb and Fisher Anaya won a tournament out of McFarland Park on Pickwick, 27-20 of a mixed bag, largemouth and smallmouth. Didn't see what their big fish was, but 27-20 on this, kind of last weekend in January. Pretty good start to the season. Looking forward. We'll be there more on I guess more of a ledge bite will be there in June of this year. So excited for those guys. Have no idea what the tournament was. They didn't mention it in their post, but 27-20 mixed bag, largemouth and smallmouth. Wheeler Lake, the only tournament I could find was out of First Creek. It was a small tournament. Eddie Jewell won with 12.54. He had a 3.52 big fish. I don't know if that was a 5-fish limit. It didn't say. It just said that was the overall weight. So not a lot. I know the Weiss Lake anglers had their tournament. I think Jeff Seabolt was one of the members of the winning team there. It took about 12.5 pounds there as well. Just not a lot going on in the fishing world, probably because of the extreme cold that we experienced over the last weekend. But everywhere I look on February 1st, it's like someone kicked the top off of the anthill, and there's tournaments everywhere, whether it's BFLs, Toyota Series. I think the BPT starts their first practice. So a lot of tournaments are getting started. I think Airport Marine may have something. I know Silicaga's already had one of their events down on Lake Martin. So I think that February 1st, second time frame is when you're going to start seeing more results posted out on the social media channels. So we'll keep an eye on those and see what we can find out. Didn't really see a whole lot on Smith Lake, and I'm still waiting to see some results on Smith Lake since that's where we're going to kick off our season in about 11 days. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll be on the Jasper side of the lake this year at the dam. Miss Linda Lewis and the great people at the Chamber of Commerce of Walker County will be our host. So we're looking forward to being there. But just kind of looking, long range, and this kind of scares me a little bit, and I'm probably going to jinx this when I say this, but long range forecast looks decent, like decent, mid 40s, could be 50. Now saying that, it will be the polar vortex will return, and we'll have 72 on Friday, and we'll have 20 in snow on Saturday with 30-mile-an-hour winds. So you could just bet it. It's ABT weekend. It's starting at Smith Lake. We've been flooded there. We've had snow there again on a day on Friday where guys were fishing literally in shorts. And we wake up at 1:15 on Saturday morning, and we have 1.5 inches of snow on our vehicles. So it can happen. And if it's going to happen, it is going to happen at Smith Lake. So get ready. All I can say is put your warm clothes on, layer in case you need to kind of lose some of that throughout the day. Maybe it'll warm up on us, but you can almost bet that it's going to be some type of polar vortex that will hit us. Maybe tornadoes, maybe 40-mile-an-hour winds, who knows? But at Smith Lake, it's the start of the Alabama bass trail season. It can't go smoothly. So just know that. I'm really excited about our guest we're going to have on. He's been on our show before. He's fished the Alabama Bass Trail 100s. He is one of my best friends, if not my best friend. He's a Bassmaster Elite Series angler, 2-time Bassmaster Elite Series Angler of the Year. He's just a good guy. He's a redneck, loves fishing, loves hunting, loves his wife, loves his country, loves the great state of Alabama. I'm excited to have him on here. We're going to talk a little bit about 2024. We're not going to stay on it too much. I've mentioned this before, I think in a podcast before, is 2024 to me was the most controversial year in the bass fishing world, and it didn't end any differently. Whether it was forward facing sonar, whether it was rules infractions, whether it was make a rule, walk back on a rule, whatever it was, it just seemed to be a very disjointed year. and a very controversial year overall. So we're not going to talk a ton about that. We're going to look forward. I think turning that page on 2025 is important, and leaving things in the past is important. So Mr. Gerald Swindle is going to join us in our next segment. We're going to talk all things fishing. We're going to talk some hunting. We're going to talk about his career in Bassmasters. If there's one thing that, he would like to bring back, is there something he misses, and those kind of things. We're just going to kind of have a sit down and talk. And in this segment, I'm going to call it like brutally honest, because I've learned that with Gerald, there's no in between. I mean, you're going to get it, whether it's what you want to hear or not. He's always brutally honest. And I expect that from him. And he knows that he can be that way with me. So I'm looking forward to it. Gerald Swindle, 2-time Bassmaster Angler of the Year. And one of my very best friends in the whole wide world. So I'm looking forward to having him. So y'all are going to want to stay tuned. You're going to want to listen in, because there is absolutely no telling where this conversation will go or what will be said. So y'all listen in. We'll be back for the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats in just a minute. So y'all stay tuned.
Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. And I promised, and I said it in the beginning, there is absolutely no telling what's going to happen here. So this could go off the rails.
I went to a hockey game last night, Kay. I've got a whole new outlook. I'm thinking about checking people, fighting. Went to a hockey game.
I saw that. Well, how was it?
It was awesome. It was the first hockey game Lulu's ever been to. And she decided it was Ryan, was kind of celebrating Ryan's 50th birthday. So Kelly went with us, and Ryan, and we talked about it. She said, if we love this, could we ever go to Nashville and watch the Predators? I said, sure. But once we realized how hard it is to even get tickets to see the Huntsville Havoc, I can only imagine getting in the Predators is going to be tough. So she liked it. She didn't understand a lot of it, but she was intrigued by the goalie stretching. Now, I'm just going to let that soak in on you.
I'm going to tell
next
you.
time you just go to TikTok and just search hockey goalies stretching, and you'll know why her and Kelly wanted to pay the money to go see the hockey game. Women never cease to amaze me.
I used to think catching in baseball was very difficult, but that goalie is just a whole nother level of psycho.
Lulu couldn't even see it. She said, I don't even know where it is. I said, well, it's in his mitt. He caught it.
Yeah.
So that's a hand-eye coordination there. And I think the Huntsville Havoc is a really good team. And I think they've been like 30-something games this year they've sold out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, look at the Trash Pandas and then the hockey team. Huntsville is really kind of getting into that whole sports deal.
Yeah, I think their soccer team, I know they're working to build their soccer club up there, and they've built a really nice facility at the old Joe Davis Stadium where the Stars played. So, yeah, Huntsville's becoming kind of the sports center for Alabama. For a long time it was Birmingham, and man, they've got that new protective stadium that's awesome. And then we just bought tickets to go see Jason Aldean in September at their new amphitheater down there. So that's a new thing. We've never seen it before. So we're going to go down there and see some of that. But let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about Gerald Swindle from the numbers. Okay. 320.
That DUI beat all this.
326 tournaments, 24 years as a professional angler, 20 Bassmaster Classic appearances, 212 times in the money, 58 top 10s, 102 top 20s, and 151 top 30s, over 2.4 million in earnings. And by the look of your face right there, you are nowhere near satisfied.
No, I don't. It's weirder. You think at times, and I'm sure you can relate to this, no matter how good the trails go, and you think that you can always, because I've talked to you about, you always think there's room to improve the ABT 100 and even the regular ABTs. It's just who we are. So, yeah, I am not ever satisfied. I mean, I was out today working on some things too. I don't know that a true competitor can ever just sit back and say, yeah, I'm satisfied. I mean, I've had some times in my career. Honestly, 2017, the year after I won my second AOY, it was a really tough year for me as far as motivation. And it was a little bit weird. Like I think the fire had to burn so hot through 16 that when I got to 17, I just couldn't find that. There was times during the day I just couldn't find that fire because I was trying to figure out, like, what am I trying to prove? So it took a little while for that to go away. So I think that's just part of a competitive nature. Like if you exhaust everything on a particular chase of a dream, and then it may take a little while to refuel that again once you accomplish it. So the not satisfied is, and the competition is getting better and better. So that fuels me too. Took a pretty good ass whooping last year. Took it left and right, and it was nobody's fault but my own. I mean, I tried to do some things. I tried to natural fish against scope. I tried to mix it. I tried to use combos on it. It didn't work. So that's on me. And when someone says you didn't, I had a guy on my TikTok message the other day said, you need to worry about your finishes. Shit. You think I ain't ever looked at that last year? You ain't got to tell me. I tried things. So yeah, the focus is to be better, to work at it. No matter if it's full live scoping or whatever it is, I got to get better.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you first, you had some surgery in the off season, and it was surgery that you've put off for a long time, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. We are close friends outside of fishing. We're close friends. So I knew this. Talk a little bit about what you had done in December.
I had my left, both my shoulders have hurt me for years. And in December the 3rd, I got to a point where early on November, I didn't get to deer hunt as much in October as what I would like to have hunted, like 2-hour evenings. Then I went on an elk hunt in September, and then I, took Whitney back on a hunt. So my deer hunting wasn't crazy. But when I went to Kansas, I was hurting so bad I couldn't sleep on my right or my left. So I was averaging 2 to 3 hours sleep a night. I would find myself trying to sit in my truck and sleep where I could sit straight up. So Lulu did all the stuff and had the MRI, and he said, "Hey, your left rotator is done." So Dr. Greco at what is it, Huntsville? What is that called? Sports. Oh, what is there? You know it.
Sportsman.
Yeah, sports med up there. He did the
Mhm.
surgery. So I actually had my rotator on my left was 90. He said 99.9% torn in two. It was starting to retract. So the tendons was rolling back or whatever it was rolling up. So they put 5 anchors in, which is the max that they can drill in and put the tendon or whatever it is back around it, put a patch over it, then did a PRP on top of it. And I'm about 7.5 weeks out right now. Fish today. I feel pretty good. I mean, I'm not lifting. I'm doing light stretches and I've stayed on my therapy, but I'm not lifting. You know what I mean? But it's better. Ironically, during that whole time, she said, "Well, let's go ahead and check your right one because it was been hurting too." Well, he said, "Gerald, it's gone. Okay, it's left the building. It and Michael Jackson is dead. It's not ever coming back." He said, "I'm going to go ahead and tell you that your right rotator's probably torn in two." And I said, "Doc, it's been that way forever. So like, I'm just going to leave it alone." It was a little bit, normally surgery and stuff like that, or the pain, that's not something that really like freaks me out. But that first 10 days was tough because I couldn't sleep and it was just so awkward being and I think the 30 days in the sling mentally just like worked me over. But I'm happy to say, like, fishing today and any of that, I don't feel anything yet. Like I don't feel any pain. Uh, got, I would say, 99% of my full motion back in my shoulder overhead. So I'm looking forward to a great year. And as long as the right shoulder stays at bay, but that's part of growing older and fishing. Like, so when people say, and your guys fish a lot, you look at the ABT 100 and even the regular ABT, I know a lot of them boys. They fished a lot of years in rough water. So fishermen are starting, their body can't hold up. So you just kind of you gotta fix what you can fix, grind what you can grind, and ignore the pain. I told Lily we was watching a movie the other night, and the guy was hurting a young kid, and the guy reached down and touched him. He said, "It's just pain." And I said, "So many days I kind of feel like that fishing. It's just pain. It's just pain. It's just temporary." But the love for what you do, the pursuit of what you do will overcome. And I mean, you've worked sick. I've seen you. You'll be up at 2 a.m. It doesn't matter. You're gonna do your job. It's kind of who we are. So I'm happy to say Dr. Greco did a great job. Unfortunately, he says that right shoulder is going to be a little tougher. So she's going to stay like she is.
Well,
Because I'm going, I did
I was
not
going to
like
say
this.
it. 20 years old, 25, even 30, like it didn't seem to hurt as bad. But
No.
dude, you get to them 50s.
you're one good sneeze away from being in a wheelchair. I mean, you go in and sneeze at Dairy Queen, you
Or
start checking your pants. Yeah,
one
you
baby
don't know
got
if you,
back. One baby got back away.
One baby got back, and you done tore your ACL, your RPC, your CRP. We're in an emergency room with your leg going round and round like a clock, and I'm like, this ain't gonna be good. But it sucks because you don't really realize how vulnerable you are to something to happen. And it's when you get up, you ache more. Like those long boat rides at like Ontario, when we go to St. Lawrence and we come out of Messina or we come out of Waddington, everybody's like, I'm running to the lake. I don't care. 2 hours. Give a crap. That'd be like a lost Gilligan's Island out there. Like, I think about that because I'm like, you know what? 2 or 3 months from now, I'm going to feel that more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to see even some of your anglers have a shorter career. I know in our world, I just don't see how the trays and the fishers and all that, when they're 50, fishing right now, you put 20 more years or 30 more years on, they're going to be crippled up.
Mm-hmm.
Them boat rides is
and boats are getting better. I mean, I love the fact that you got air conditioned seats and heated seats in the boats now, but the boat traffic is getting worse. The number of the competitors, and then
right.
And live scope. Let's talk. I mean, that's
You
not
got your
the
neck
easiest
bent down.
position. Yeah. I mean, so I think guys are going to have to take time to rehabilitate themselves Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to do that.
Well, I'm seeing like, one of the dearest friends I have on tour is Carl Jochimson, and he battled with his neck all last year. And he once it gets to hurting him, every time he live scope, it inflames it. Mm-hmm. So his whole off season, he's stretching, doing PRPs. You're trying to do things to get you back out there that doesn't cause extreme downtime. And that's one thing we don't have is down. Well, in the winter, you have a little downtime, but if something happens during the season, I mean, Hank Cherry had a surgery. God, he might have had his September. And he told me the other day, he said, dude, I'm still 2 months out of being 100%.
Right.
Chad Pipkins, knee surgery, elbow surgery, back to back. So guys are trying to cram all that in, but at 40, 45, 50, and 55, you just don't heal as quick, Mm-mm. So you have to kind of pay more attention to it. I'm out fishing today, and it wasn't that cold today. It was cloudy. High was probably 46 at Gunners. But when I come in at dark, I couldn't even move my hands. Like I couldn't even get the truck. And I can remember at 25, that didn't even bother me. Like your hands didn't. I mean, my hands didn't get cold. And now I'm like, I got electric socks, electric vest. I'd have electric flannel drawers if I could find them. It just hurts more. It literally hurts more. And y'all just had a pretty cold tournament at Gunnersville. Like, it wasn't the end of the world, but those are cold mornings, and without discipline and the right clothes, that's a rough 2 or 3 hours till the sun gets up.
Oh yeah, it was it ended up being a good tournament. I know I pulled up the first day, and you had just gotten out, just kind of getting your boat broke in. You had just gotten your boat broke in.
You're like, I see you, and I'm like, don't tell the warden. This is the first time I have escaped out of the house. Don't tell the warden. And I went out and got to fish a couple of evenings, and then probably a half a day leading up to y'all's event. And I was thinking to myself, I guessed I didn't think there would be a dirty 30. I was like, I don't think it, because a day or two before y'all's tournament, the wind blew so hard against the current, it muddied the entire river up, like just churned it into nothing. And then I was like, it's just cold, cold, cold. I figured high 20s, and they did it, but I didn't figure the weights would be as heavy all the way down, and they wasn't. Normally when you come to Gunners, if they're biting, dude, 20 pounds sometimes just gets you a pat on the back.
Right.
But how many bags over 20 did y'all have?
18. So
we talking about top 100 guys in the state of Alabama. Some traveling, those are some hammers.
Yeah.
And you had Justin Hamner in there, speaking of hammers, and you had some great fishermen, but like 20 pounds wasn't an automatic catch this time due to water temperature, current flow, and the wind.
Yeah. What was so funny, Luke pulled up on a guy that he had covered Justin, and Justin him left, and he went over to this guy and he said, we just watched that guy put on a clinic. Luke kind of looked around. He said, yeah, he's done that before. He said,
he's kind of known for that, and he's one of the top scopers out there, and he got beat by another young scoper, so like, but them guys have to work at it. Like I'm out there this evening, and even when it's that cold, even though we catch them scoping, it's not automatic. It's a lot of art to it, a lot of work. But your guys, that was a cold one. When I woke up that Saturday morning, I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of glad my shoulder's bad. I'd be out there freezing with the rest of y'all. But
Yeah, because you
luckily,
were signed up for it, and then the surgery
I
happened, and
totally
we knew you
wanted to
weren't going to be able
fish.
to. Yeah.
I signed up and I so wanted to fish them all. And then Lulu said, I just don't think you're going to be ready. I asked her about it. I said, you sure? And she said, listen, we've been through all this and we were talking about tonight eating supper. I still haven't done push-ups or lifted, but I'm 7 weeks out, a little over. So I told her, I said, I'm trying to give it all the time in the world to heal. And I feel good. I feel like I could fish, but you don't want to jump on it too early.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about hunting. Anyone who knows you knows that that's really a passion of yours. Fishing, of course, is your passion. It's how you earn your
Pay
living.
the bills.
That's how you pay the bill. That's how you get to go hunting.
Yes.
Talk about that, because what I saw of you this year, and you've said this to me for the last couple of years, it is not about your kill. It is really about enjoying seeing Lulu and Whitney and getting the grandkids involved
People
and talk
around me
about
that I
that.
love. Yeah,
Yeah.
taking people hunting. I had my Zoom sponsor in. One of my got dear friends that was Zoom, Chris Baxter. I had Dan in from Rapala. I enjoy being in the woods or helping people hunt or being a part of that. I like that. This year was different because I did have an early season elk hunt with Burris, and we went out to Colorado. But the best part of it is Lulu and I left here. I drove out to Colorado. I drove my truck out with a tent on top of it, and I slept my way out. Uh, she rode with me, and then she flew back home. So we tent camped out, and that's the first time we've ever had like 4 days was just a couple where we woke up in the morning. Kay, there was no itinerary. We just drove up in a campground in Colorado Springs, all these nice motor homes and fifth wheels, and there we are. I got a tent on top of the Tundra, and I unfold it. I build a fire. I got the Tito's, the tea, and the lemonade. I make Lulu coffee. I make her hash browns, steak over open fire, and we had probably one of the greatest times we've ever had. But I think it was the simplicity and the thought that we could slow down, just
Mm-hmm.
slow down and talk to each other,
Yeah.
where we're not looking like where we got to be at 1 or 2. So then that once she flew home, I elk hunted. I had a great hunt. I shot my elk first morning. Then I shot a bear. So I had a great trip. Come back, but then I got to back it up because Whitney had always hit me up. She's like, "Gee, Daddy, I want to kill a mule deer. I want to kill a mule deer." I reached out to some buddies of mine. I found her a mule deer tag and an elk tag in New Mexico. So her and I turned around and left. I want to say it was in October. We turned around and left and went right back to New Mexico, just a father-daughter hunt. We rode all the way down there together and got to talk, and we had a great hunt. It was enduring for her. She had a couple of great opportunities at first, and things went awry. So she got that emotional roller coaster. I got so close, I failed. So close, I failed. And we walked till she was tired. And the last evening, she hits that vape, and I was like, so I use her vape for my wind checker. I'm like, hey, hit that vape. Let me see which way the wind's blowing. And we done walked about 3 miles that evening through the rocks. And she's like, I left my vape in the truck. She was mad. She sit on a cactus. Like, it was a rough evening. And so then she got to shoot her elk like in the last 30 minutes of safe flight. And I can remember she shot the elk and I pick her up and I'm swinging around, hugging her. Like, that stuff to me, I don't know that you can put a price tag on it. I don't slow down that much to do that. And then once we did that, I drove all the way back through the night from New Mexico because we had to get home from the Toyota series. But just something as simple as driving all night with Whitney, because we got to talk, we got to sing together, we got to spend that time together that you don't normally do. And I would encourage anybody, whether you do it hunting or camping or walking in the park, spend some time, spend some slow down time. Not in an environment where you're tempted to work or do things. That was a great experience to me to watch her shoot an elk. We got to, she wanted to help skin it with Franco and myself. So like the whole experience, that was her first time to ever been in an elk camp, and it was all men, but
Mm-hmm.
they were super respectful. Like nobody's going to like, you couldn't have asked to be in a better camp. And they were
Yeah.
all so excited when she shot her elk. So to me, take the surgery outside of it. It was a great winter to spend time with family.
Good.
Lulu's killed some deer. Don't let me knock on it. She shot her 9 point on the second evening of bow season. She shot another one and lost it. So me and her got to hunt something together this year. I ain't gonna short her. We had our good times, and we look forward to next year. But I think for us, Kay, for me, the winter time is the time that Lulu and I date again. So everybody
Mm-hmm.
said, "How did you get Lulu to hunt with you?" It's almost like we're dating again. When we go
Mm-hmm.
hunting, if we want to hold hands and walk out of the woods, we do. If we want to sleep late, we do. If we want to sit by a campfire and cook a steak, we will. but I've tried to make myself date again. Be something different. Don't be thinking about, oh, I got to catch him tomorrow, I'm going to lose this sponsor. So it was a great winter for family time.
Well, I'll jump straight to that question. We'll come back and get some of these other questions. I want to talk a little bit about Lulu because, I say all the time, you and I are great friends. I'm great friends with Lulu as well. But it is about y'all's career. It is about y'all's work. It is about y'all's future and all of that. And how she makes that team complete is the
She
coolest
is
thing.
the team. Yeah, she is the team. I'm just a caster. She actually, because of my shoulder, she booked herself to fly with me to Raleigh to speak a couple of weeks ago because we didn't know at that time like lifting baggage or anything. So she went, and it was amazing to go to Raleigh and speak. But how many people were there just to see Lulu? And I think that kind of catches her off guard. That the show promoter Les was like, "Hey, there's a lot of people here want to know where Lulu's at." So we have become known as that team. She went back with me the next weekend at Anderson. It has been a great relationship as far as forming that team. She does her part very well, and she meets the fans well. She's still a little embarrassed, like when people ask for autograph or take pictures, she always acts shocked. But it's kind of flattering to me that people recognize us as a team. We were at the hockey game last night. Just random dude just walks up, and I'm out there just eating a Domino's piece of pizza, and the guy walks up and he said, "G and Lulu, I cannot believe I seen you here." So to me, that means we have shared our life in a way that people know she runs the company. Now, she said today she wanted a new job title. I don't know. I called her what it just said, you just make your title up. But I take a lot of pride in that people recognize us as a couple and what we do.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's the biggest compliment that you can give your wife or to your spouse, that it's synonymous. G and Lulu, G and Lulu, G and Lulu. And I've known y'all for a long time, and it's always been that way. So, all right, I want to get into some fishing. I want to talk about, we've
Okay.
talked 2024, probably the most controversial year in all of bass fishing. I'm glad to flip that page. I'm glad for
Yes.
2025 to get here. We'll see how 2025 shakes out. I want to ask you a question I see posted on social media all the time. What is the definition of a professional angler?
And see, that's a tough one. And it's even trickier now because the age group and how things are changing. To me, the definition of a professional angler is a guy who can make a living off the water. Now think about that. It used to be known what he could catch. You have to catch enough to be recognized at a high enough status. And then from there, you figure out how to run the business off the water. Well, your brand is just as strong on the days that you don't compete as they are the days you do compete. And that's so hard, I think, for the younger generation. And not knocking them, and even the guys, let's just say young in the wise of how many years they've been fishing. They could be 40 and just getting into it. They don't realize that the fishing is just a little thin piece of the pie. And yes, you have to be consistent enough, and you have to have enough recognition there to get the respect. But after that, it's a business. It is a job where that brand can sustain even when tournaments are not going on. In other words, if you're not in that, you got to work on your brand enough that when the tournaments are not going on, the amount of views and the stuff that you get doesn't drop, whether it's social or whatever, that you're doing things. And that's a tough one, man. Like we heard I talk about it, trying to stay on top of things, learning new things, messing around on TikTok, looking at new apps, because it's a continuous growing business to extend your brand. And if not, recreate your brand. And I'll speak on that. Like Fat Cat Newton, he has totally recreated his whole brand. He's lost well over 100 pounds, or maybe 200 pounds. Recreated his whole image. And I told him when I seen him in Raleigh, I said, dude, that's commending him, because you're at that time in your career where you start figuring out how to remold your brand, how to stay alive. It's a guy who can make a living without being on the water and
You know,
still have enough power in the industry to sell baits and be productive for sponsors. They say, what's the key to it? I'm gonna say this guy's name, and I don't think he'll mind it, but it meant a lot to me that he called me. Was young Tristan McCormick. He called me a couple of weeks ago and he said, "Gee, I want some tips." I say, "Whatever you got, bro. Come on." I call him Big Flo because he got that big hair. He said, "Man, I got to go do my first real big seminar up north in a few weeks, and he said, I want some tips on speaking. To me, that says already Tristan McCormick's on the right path to being a great professional off the water, because he's looking to improve and learn how to public speak.
Right.
Companies hire you to public speak. They don't want you to go public embarrass them.
Right.
So that's an art. So people said, how do you learn to public speak? Public speak.
Mm-hmm.
Go do seminars, even if they seem small. Work on it, work on it, work on it. But that's a true sign of what a guy's wanting to get better at, because he knows that's a value. Because when you have 200 or 300, or when at Riley we had standing room only in a seminar room, that's when I can sell a battery. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to sell batteries on the way in stage. If you get up there and burn people, I wasn't for these 7 million kilowatt batteries, I wouldn't have caught a bass. No, that's bull crap today. So, but when you have a captivated audience, and someone raises their hand and say, hey man, what kind of setup in your boat, in your Phoenix, do you run on your batteries? Mm-hmm. That's the selling power. That's that making a living off the water, because you're making someone else money.
Right. Right. Well, when you look at these companies that are giving 5% raises or 3% cost of living raises and all that, you don't see that translate in payouts. You don't see Bass come out and say,
yeah, no. And
we haven't had one at the ABT either, so I'm not throwing Bass under the.
No, but it's just that way in tournament fishing. No organizations really give a cost of living, and it's substantial. Guys make adjustments to it. They figure out how to make more. So it's not just ABT or Bass or MLF. The cost of living raised in fishing, it's not there. What it cost me to fish last year compared to what 15 years ago, it's a whole lot greater. Mm-hmm. But the payout's actually the same, if not a little worse.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to point out, because I love your description, because we haven't seen payouts grow over the last 15 years as to what inflation has grown. So your boats are more expensive, the motors are more expensive, the baits are more expensive, the rods are more expensive, gas is more expensive, oil, all the things, but the payout has stayed the same. So you have to figure out, I mean, you only have 8 opportunities to win that $100,000. So, and let's say that's not going to happen every time you go out on the water. So you have to figure out those ways of making a sustainable income and cover the expenses that have grown so much. You
got to hustle. I would say the 8 or 9 weeks that I'm in Elite Series is probably sometimes the most least valuable people get. They put their whole year out on that. That's just 8 or 9 weeks, man. You still got a lot of weeks left. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do the other 44 weeks? Yeah. So that's where it comes down to. And I do think people want to fish for more money, which is hats off to you guys, because the ABT 100, look what it does. You pays more money. And you and I have had crazy conversations, because you'd call and say, hey, let's kick the can around and see what you think. And I've been the guy that said, hey, Kay, I think you could have a team trail that guys would pay $3,000 to get in if the payout was high enough. Yeah. Because there's just not a lot of opportunities for that. But it's so scary as a tournament director, someone to say, man, we're going to have a team tournament's going to be $2 or $3 grand a boat. It is, but I do think we're going to see that eventually, where the local guys have a chance to fish for 50, 75,000, much like what you've offered in the ABT 100 or your championship, because that's rare, man. I made a joke to somebody the other day. I said, man, well, I know guys will fish 4 and 5 nights a week, paying $30 to $50 entry fees, spending all this money in their boat on insurance and gas, and they're winning $119, $48, $56. I said, I'm going to be the guy that has the first wildcatter on Gunnersville that's 4 hours. And I keep saying I'm going to do this. It's $1,000 a boat, no live scope. It's a 4-hour tournament, mandatory polygraph. If I have 10 show up, we'll pay $7,000 for first place. Yeah. I do think that's eventually going to twist around in the anglers world, because it's going to offset exactly what we talked about, the cost of living. Mm-hmm. Insurance is higher on a boat. Boat payments are higher. Interest rates are higher. So why not take a chance? And I was talking to a guy about that. He said, you think you could get 20 boats to show up? I said, let me ask you a question. I said, you're going to go fish 3 wildcatters this month, and you got to tell your wife I'm going to spend and I don't care where you go, what you do, each man's going to spend $100. You can't go anywhere without dropping $100. So I said, you do that 3 times, y'all spent $600 between you to win $88. I said, well, you could spend $1,000, you could spend $500 a piece, but you'd have a chance, if you had 25 boats show up, to win 15 grand cash. Mm-hmm. He said, well, I'm starting to see where you're going with that. Yeah. I think that's going to be the new phase that probably takes off, where anglers will say, you know what, we're going to fish for a little bit more money. And until the ABT 100 came around here, there wasn't anything else like that. I
Mhm.
mean, the Gerald Swindle Big Bass pays 50,000 to win, but you had 1,100 contestants in this amateur division. So there's just not much of that.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, you're going to pack up $100,000 Phoenix, go sit in the freezing cold and fish a wildcatter that pays $800? No, no.
No, not in Alabama. I will say the tournaments in Alabama have really grown. You can almost fish for $10,000 on a, 3 weekends out of 4 in the state of
Right.
Alabama. Other tournament trails have really upped their payout and stuff. I know Bass announced the no entry fee earlier in 24. They haven't recanted that. They're still, kind of no entry fee, but that sounded great until the payout come back. But I think they're working on the payout. I think you guys have had a lot of input on that.
I think the anglers kind of looked back at that and had, without saying too much, it's like it sounded good, no entry fee, and then all of a sudden you look at the last place check, which went from 50th to 40th, and the last place check was 500. So then you get the idea of, well, it looks professional because there's no entry fee. Does it? Because $500 is last place payout. You fish a big wildcat around here, you'll win 400.
Mhm.
So I think it was that you didn't know which one was greater. So we have been working on some stuff with Bass to the Anglers Committee, and I do think there's going to be some changes. They haven't went
Good.
public with them yet, but I don't think any of the guys was happy fishing for that. I think we want to keep the payout at least to 50 places because at this level of competition, you just got to pay 50% of the field,
Mhm.
especially when you drive to New York or something like that. So they're working on that, and I think it'll be good.
Good.
The no entry fee kind of caught us all off guard. We didn't really change much else in the elite. We have one transducer, and then we have 55 inches of screen, which I I still don't really know what we're doing. But like, you can't have an iPad in the boat. You can't have any of that in your presence. Like, you can only have those screens and use your phone. So it's like our rules this year from a spectator standpoint, unless somebody gets online and really goes over them with the public, it's going to be pretty hard to follow, like why we're doing this or why we're doing that. But it's going to be a good mix. But then there's the NPFL that said there's going to be no live scope.
Yeah.
And me, I was like, sign me up.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that. Going
I
to the
think
NPFL.
yeah, there were several guys. I mean, the
Yeah.
Bill Lowens, even Welchers, the Cooks, Bittens. I mean, Patrick Walters. There's a big group of guys from the elites. Jason Christie, Hackney. They just want to go fish natural.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that they hate live scoping. It just means they don't want to forget how to fish natural.
Right.
And it's $100,000 payout.
Yeah.
So once again, it's a business. So you think if I can invest 40,000 in entries and go over there and take a chance on winning on my natural instinct, guys are going to sign up for it. So I do think the fans of bass fishing this year through the MLF changes, which I didn't really know how I was going to like the MLF change, but I'm going to be curious to watch this first event because they can only use their live scope for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So they got me. It's like a great commercial in a movie. I'm like, I'm going to watch this to see how this works out. And I think the NPFL is going to have a great deal of viewers, which I know Luke works for yourself and he does some stuff for NPFL. And I think he's excited about it just to see how guys fish now with no live scope.
Oh, I think so too. And I think this is the issue with bass fishing. I say this all the time. There's room for that. Like I asked Luke a couple weeks ago on the podcast, do we have all the areas covered? I think there's room for no live scope. I think there's room for, all of that and I think the viewership is there for all of it. So my question to you is, you're going to be at the St. John's and then you're going to have to go straight to Santee Cooper. So what does that mean for like on and off your boat? Like, what is that going to be like?
The NPFL has a device that can go over your transducer. They can zip it, clean it. So if it's ever broke, like you can't read it. But for me to be safe, all I'm going to do the way I set my boat up is just take the transducer, roll it up, and put it up in storage.
Okay.
I had them running on the outside, but I can still use 360. So what I looked at for NPFL was 2 or 3 different reasons because I had several pro anglers call me and say, "Hey, why are you doing this?" And I said, "Guys, if sponsors are looking for a reason to cut people because tackle sales are down, would you rather be on the elites and somewhere you can go promote everything else?" I said, because at the elites, we're going to throw a minnow and we're going to throw a minnow, and then by God, we're going to throw a damn minnow over and over and over, because every tournament's going to be one like that. But at the MPFL, I can throw a DT6, you can throw a jerkbait, you can fish your strength and your baits, and I think it's going to help. So some of these sponsors are like, man, we would love for you to fish it just to see, and I think that's where we're at. I think, like you said, there's plenty of room for it. The fans will say how much they like it. But for me, it was a business decision to say, what can I promote? 360 for Humminbird will be a player in the NPFL, because we can use it, but we can't use live scope.
Right.
So why not use that? And why not have a tournament circuit where I can skip a buckeye jig around and have a chance to win? Because in the current situation that we're in, and it's no good or bad, it's just like, it's pretty much the deal. You're going to throw a minnow, you're going to live scope, you're going to throw a jerkbait or minnow, or you're not going to do much buzz baiting down the bank. I tried that last year. You will get pummeled. So to me, I think Leanne says, she told somebody at a seminar today, she said, it's cheaper than me having him have therapy. So she said, me and put him in the MPFL because he loves the natural fish. I love
Right.
holes to the pants. And I think that's why you've seen so many guys sign up. It's just like, hey, this will be fun, and I still tell everybody, you take the F out of fishing, the fun part, and people will quit. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. So I think a lot of guys are going to do that just to have fun. And now I've been around your tournaments. I've emceed them. I fished a few. Those guys are having a good time. Yeah, they're using forward-facing sonar, but there's a team. So one guy, he don't care if he's handicapped. If I'm Justin Hammer's partner, I'm be like, there's one of them dots, throw right there. We go split the money. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's a team event, so it doesn't factor in as bad as a draw tournament or something.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, like, when you say there's plenty of room for it, there's plenty of room for it on both sides.
I wanted to ask you, 8 elite events, 6 MPFL events. You're not going to have a lot of time for Tuesday and Thursday night Wildcats, buddy.
I'm gonna slack off them this year, and it was really weird last year, Kay. They really fell off around here. Like, they quit having the Tuesday night out of all reds. Now, without being doom and gloom, or I don't know what it's from. I think I know what it's from, but a lot of them just quit having crowds. People just don't want to show up. And it doesn't matter if people say, well, they're just mad because they got beat by live scope. They just don't want to do it. They're 58 years old. They work down at the lumber company. They just want to come out here on Tuesday evening, throw a big worm in the grass, have a chance to win, and go home.
Yeah.
Well, it's been shown to them in the last year and a half to 2 years, they have no chance of winning. None. So they just quit coming. So it was really weird this year how participation in the Wildcatters at Guntersville really fell off.
Yeah.
So that won't be Wildcatting this year.
I want to ask you if there's one thing you could bring back to tournament bass fishing that, or is it a product? Is it a location? Is it a rule that you would like to bring back? Is it
You tricking me.
Or is it a person that you would like to bring back into, bass fishing? Is it?
If I could bring 2 things back right now, I would bring back integrity and trip welding, because those 2 are the same damn thing. I don't care how you put them in a sentence. That's the same thing. And I think as this sport grows, and as we move down the line, and as you and I grow older, somebody else takes the torch behind us, if we don't have integrity and great leadership, I don't know that even if we're growing or climbing or moving, where are we moving to? So I don't think those things ever go out of style, ever.
I agree with that. Trip Weldon set the bar so high. And I love the fact his phone is always on. If you text him and you say, hey, Trip, can I talk to you about something? If he can't talk right then, he calls you right back. Or, he just, he didn't leave the industry. He just retired. So I love that about him.
I think people have no idea how much Trip Weldon has meant to professional fishing, and not just in bass. He set the standard for MLF, for the Toyota series, for FLW. Tournament directors from all over called Trip for advice, and Trip, to me, was he's a dear friend, but I respected him like my dad. So I think one day, and I don't know when it'll be, maybe somebody will write a book on how powerful that little short guy from Wetumpka really was.
He's meant the world to Kay Donaldson and the Alabama Bass Trail. I know that for dang sure. Um, in your opinion, this may be repetitive, but is there something missing in competitive bass fishing? And I say that meaning, um, is there I say this, do we have all things covered? We have high school, we have college, we have, amateur tournaments. Is there a part that's missing? Is it a senior trail? What is it that is it anything missing?
I don't know if it's one thing like a age group or anything like that missing. Uh, what scares me so much, it's not really missing, but one thing I find alarming in that is how young it's getting, how fast it's getting. So eventually, what will it be missed to have any veterans in the sport? Will that ever be missed? I don't know. I don't know that we're missing any type of other trails. High school and college has plenty, if not too much. Now, I'm saying that in all due respect. It's like there's so many divisions and so much of it. It's really hard for the public and the sponsors to keep up with it, and they have a lot, and I'm really grateful for that. I just sometimes hope that I wish there was a mentoring class in these high school levels where pros could go back and the businesses work with the pros to go meet with these kids and not on their own dime, because these guys have to make money. I'm not saying get rich, but go back and coach some of these high school teams and from the foundation a little bit, just be a part of their life. And I know there's anglers, Brandon Cobb and some of those guys go back and work with colleges, but and in high school, you got a football coach. Jake had a great baseball coach in high school, or he'd have never went to college. I think coaches with high-end tournament experience is probably what's missing.
I like it. I like it. Um, couple more questions and then we're going to just talk some funny stuff. What motivates Gerald Swindle? It's not money. I know that. Money makes things happen, but that's not what motivates you. So what is it that motivates you to get up on year 25 in your professional ranks and go to work?
Failure, the fear of failure. That's it. I mean, I think that's what pushes all of us. It's what pushes you to strive to have the trail that you have. That's why you're always trying to improve it. Me, the failure fuels the fire. Being a little bit poor as a kid really fuels the fire. Success is great to feel, but losing really sucks to feel. People think, man, winning is a great feeling, yeah, but losing is the worst feeling in the world. So the failure part probably is what drives me.
When you get ready to hang it up and say, I am officially retired, what do you want the fishing world to remember about Gerald Swindle?
He's like Elvis, folks. He did it his way. He did it his way. I hope that when that day comes that I lay the rods down and say I'm done at this level, I hope that somewhere along the line I have made an impact with somebody, young, medium, or old, maybe not even wearing a jersey, that it made a difference. Those trophies out there are temporary, and they're all up and down my garage. They're temporary. They're just something to look back and reflect on. But in my mind and in my heart, if I've done something to help someone or change someone's outlook or put a smile on someone's face, those things they last forever. So as I gotten older, I just want to know that when I leave the sport, that people say he did the best he could. I'm not saying he's the easiest to get along with, because I am kind of balls and strikes, black or white on each call, but they can honestly say he tried to do the right thing and he tried to help people.
All right. Now for the fun stuff. What is your favorite food to eat?
Don't get me on some barbecue and 2-day-old spaghetti. I tear it all up. I like 2-day-old spaghetti and barbecue. I ain't about. I mean, I'll eat a fillet if it's laying there, but I'll tear barbecue up.
Barbecue pork, barbecue
like some pork now. Yeah, I'm
okay.
pork. I'm a pork guy.
Okay.
Like
you like
fat.
mayonnaise slaw or
No, I like a vinegar based slaw. I like a sweet barbecue sauce with a little vinegar in it. I don't like that yellow or white barbecue sauce. The
Okay.
Carolina barbecue sauce I ain't about.
You ain't about that life. All right.
No, that's not good.
When Gerald Swindle sits down and cracks the cooler open, what is coming out in that drink glass?
Mm. Woo, gonna be some water. If I've been working in a hot summer at the farm, it might be a Mick Ultra. If I've had a long day on the water, it might be a little Tito's with a splash of lemonade and some y'all sweet tea, Dairy Creek, right on top of it. Y'all don't judge. Them knees is bad.
No, son.
But I drink a lot of water. But I don't mind my Tito's with a splash of lemonade and some y'all sweet tea.
Son, I don't either. I am right there with you. I'm gonna mix in a Busch Light because honestly, I didn't realize how much I liked them until I started drinking them, and now it's like I go to places and ask for Busch Light, and they're like, "No," and I'm like, "We got to go. We can't stay here. This is."
That's Dollar General bougie right there.
I know,
I'm,
and I'm okay with it. I'm okay. We have a Dollar General within a rock's throw of our new house, and I mean, they stay stocked with the 16-ounce cans, which is awesome as far as I'm
maybe
concerned.
that's going to be the new sponsor of the ABT.
Yeah. Oh, we got them. We just got to keep them now. I got to drink enough of them. No, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. You know, our first stop is at Smith Lake. You've been there a lot of times.
Right.
February the 8th. Long range forecast, of course, looks mid 40s. We know that the polar vortex will come in. Any little hints you want to drop for Smith Lake for February the 8th?
Of course, we know it'll be a scoping deal. I think your guys can watch the forecast. If we were to get some rain and kind of haze that water up and color up, some guys can get some good checks and threaten to win maybe with a crankbait. But if that water stays clear and stays down, the jerkbait bite is not going to be as good, and it's going to be pretty much a scoping event. Now, that could be anywhere from 30 foot to 60 foot. But if I had to give an inside tip, I would say if you're fishing that event, when you think you're fishing deep, you better fish deeper because they live out there. Fish deeper, they live out there. And if the water's down and clear and cold, there will be some fish weighed in your event caught in 60 foot.
One more question. The bait that you will live and die by.
God, it used to be a buckeye jig, but I'm going to say if I had to live or die just free fishing, it's going to be a chatterbait because it's just so versatile and I catch so many big fish on it. Someone asked me that seminar the other day, if you had one bait for the rest of your life, what would it be? I said a half-ounce jackhammer. I'm not even sponsored by them, with a Zoom bait on the back of it, just a crawl or shimmer shad. But I said a chatterbait is probably the most versatile bait we've had. It really has mixed in a lot with a jig. So guys that like to power fish, but yet try to fish for big fish, a jig and a chatterbait is going to be it.
How long have you been with Buckeye and Zoom?
I've been with them a while. I've been with
say.
Zoom since Zoom was like one of my first ever sponsors. I'm going to say Zoom is probably 25 years. And I've had some offers to leave over the years, 6-figure offers, and I'm not ever going to leave them. Chris Baxter, Eddie Chambers Jr., Eddie Wortham, even when Big Ed was still alive. I always looked at it like this, okay? He was one of the first men to ever spend money on me, and he believed in me. So if I can't be loyal to him, I can't be loyal to anybody. It ain't about the money now. It ain't about that. It's about this man believed in me, and Ed Chambers is dead and gone. His son's still living, but Eddie Wortham and Chris Baxter are still there. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. This ride or die. Zoom's been a long time sponsor of mine and a great friendship. And it's one of them companies I don't ask for a raise. I don't want a raise. I'm doing this out of respect for Ed and what he's done for me when I still had sawdust on my back, showing up at a Wildcatter with no shirt on and blue jean shorts. Ed Chambers was sending me a $200 check in the mail. And back then, that was so much to me, I couldn't even explain it.
I understand it, son. I understand it. When someone buys into you, it is life-changing. 100% it's life-changing.
I take that as a compliment.
It is. Like, I mean, it is a, I remember I've told the story about my date with Phoenix Boats, back in 2013. And how that changed my life. Their belief in me, because at the time we didn't have a boat signed up. We sure didn't have 225 boats signed up. We didn't even have a dang website. And when they said yes, it was life changing for me. And
And I
so
think
far,
and I think that's why you run a trail, and even when somebody comes in and says, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you about a boat deal," it's much bigger than a boat deal, because Teresa was that person.
mm-hmm.
And I think when you get that one person that's not family, they're not in your immediate family, but they say, "Hey, I believe in you, Kay, and what you're doing," that's hard to erase. It really is hard to erase, because you're like, man, it's like dancing in the old gym at high school dance and junior high. You've been told no so much. When one girl says yes, you're just like, I'm in love with you. I just think it's something that the no's were so powerful that one yes overruled them all. And I've always said this, that I think loyalty in this sport can be the worst thing you ever do. But it also, to me, can be the best thing in some scenarios. Loyalty in this sport will get you burned if it's the wrong company. But if in my heart they've been good to me, I'm going to be loyal till it burns me.
I agree. I agree. Anything else you want to say before we close this thing up?
I want to say thank you guys for having me on, and congrats to the winner of the ABT 100 out here on Gunnersville. The guys showed out. I look forward to seeing Luke and Darian out on the water. I appreciate you keeping a really tight grip on those two, because at any time they allow to go sit in the corner and pick their nose. So you got to watch both of them. But I would say thank you to a long-standing friendship and a great business friendship. We have that friendship where we call and talk business, where you'll call it, and I've called you before and said, "Okay, I need to ask you about something," and you never ever sugarcoated. Even if it wasn't what I want to hear, you say, "This is it," and that's kind of hard to find. Where when I call sis, she's gonna shoot me straight. And sometimes I think people need that. I don't need people to tell me what they think I need to hear. I need to be told what's right to make sure I'm on the right page. And having that in our corner, and it's like I tell everybody, I said, Kay was there when our grandchildren were born. And I know how much that meant to that one in there. So you're like, friends is friends, business is business, but it's always been fun. Even when I got to fish the ABT 100, it's fun, man. It's fun. And I think that's what you offer at that trail. Yeah, it is big money, but you see those guys having fun. And in my world, it's sad to say at this level, sometimes the fun is gone. The fun is gone. So when you see a Justin Hamner go back and I'm not saying this is why he's doing it, but if you see a Justin Hamner go back and fish the ABT 100, somewhere in there, he's having fun. Mm-hmm. Because it feels good to him. It's like that's that old school feeling, much like the guys fishing the MPFL. It's all about having a good time.
Yeah. I agree. I was going to say the same thing. We've been friends for over 20 years. We've been through loss together. We've been through, new houses, new grandkids, kids graduating college. We've been through it. Sick parents, and we've been through it.
We've seen the sport do this, and I think that's it's kind of kept us on our toes. Yes, we've been through death and birth and all kind of struggles, but I think that says a lot about who you are and what we are. When we need something, if I call you and say, "Hey, things ain't good, can you say a prayer for us?" You there? So, to me, when we do retire, let's just say when you decide you're going to put your pen down and you're like, "I'm not doing this anymore." What would you want your guys to remember you by? You would want them to remember you for who Kay is in her heart and what she's done for them. And I know, just watching the Rex Chambers deal, to how you handled some of your guys when they're sick and how you call on them, the things you've done for Trip, even though someone might not agree with you on a tournament call, and they're not supposed to, I think deep down inside, if they study what you do for people around them, they will understand Kay's got a big heart. She's just running a business. So even though I didn't always agree with Trip, I had the utmost respect for her.
Yeah. Well, I was on the phone with you last week with one of the biggest calls I've ever taken in my life. And you were calling to check on me. And that's meant the world to me that you didn't let that day go by. You knew what I was facing, and I appreciate that. And Leanne checking on me, and that's what we are. And I appreciate you so much. I admire you so much, and thank you so much for taking time to spend with me tonight.
You got it, guys. I look forward to seeing everybody out on the water. Till then, peace out. We're going to watch Josie Wales.
All right, guys, there it is. Gerald Swindle, the two-time Bassmaster Elite Series Angler of the Year. We'll be back with segment number 3 in just a few minutes. Y'all stay tuned.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats, the third and final segment of tonight's podcast. I just want to say, I absolutely love having G on the podcast. He is always 1,000 miles a minute. His mind doesn't ever shut down. He's constantly working. He's constantly thinking about things that he can improve and do. And he is absolutely 90 to nothing all the time. A lot of people ask me, is he the same witty, funny person offset, if he's not in front of a crowd and everything? And he is that way. He was that way when he carried me to the hospital when I tore my ACL in Gulf Shores. He is like that. If you're at the farm hunting with him, he's just like that. He is the quickest witted person I've ever been around. He also has the absolute biggest heart of any person that you'll ever be around. He's absolutely one of my favorite people. As I mentioned in the first part of our podcast, we are 11 days away from Smith Lake, and I'm looking forward to be there. We've got season number 12. Get ready. It's here. It's time. We've got anglers from over 12 states that are going to be vying for their part of the $63,000 prize money. Long range forecast, we've said it. It looks good. It looks decent. Means prepare. Bring all of your clothes. Layer up so you can shed those things when it warms up during the day. But you got to know it's going to start out cold. We could have tornadoes. We could have snow. Who knows? Come prepared. That's all I can say. One thing I do want to mention that is new for 2025, if you fish the ABT 100, you already know this. You're going to receive your text messages on Monday night at 7 o'clock instead of on Thursday night. And we do that so you can let us know early if you're going to be having an alternate stand-in for you. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be done to get ready for live streaming, to get all the correct names and all of that over to the production company, as well as to our people that are going to be on the water, Darian, Luke, and Jason. So make sure that you get those names to us by Wednesday. And then on Friday, when you come to the meeting, you'll let John know if you're going to be coming by water so that we can get your key fobs where they need to be. But again, get ready. I think it's like February the 5th that you're going to get your text message that's going to let you know what boat number, what flight number, and what time you're due in at Smith Lake. We are 25 days away from the South Division starting on Lake Martin. CJ Knight, Anthony Goggins at the Best Of show said, we don't like to start at Lake Martin. It hasn't played very well for us in the hunt for an Angler of the Year. They'll be trying to defend their title as we hit the water on February the 22nd there at Lake Martin in Alexander City, Wind Creek State Park. Tons of things going on there, tons of improvements going on at the state park system overall. So looking forward to being there. Thank you to Sandra Fuller and the Tallapoosa County Tourism Board for bringing us in and being our host there. We're excited about that. Just a couple of housekeeping items. I just want to make sure that you are prepared for the meeting on Friday night prior to your tournaments. Please make sure you bring your fishing license and your driver's license. We'll need to be checking those. If you're an out-of-state angler, please make sure that you have your boating safety course taken care of and that you have proof of that with you. If you have questions about that, please visit outdooralabama.org. Check everything through them. We're not going to verify it. We don't want to tell you something that's wrong. So make sure that you go to Outdoor Alabama and click on the boating safety course. You can take it there, or you can take the one that's applicable in your state. So make sure that you visit that. All right, that does it for this week's podcast. I want to thank Gerald Swindle for coming on and being online with me tonight. He is a lot of fun. There's a lot of heart, a lot of passion there for the fishing industry as well as friends and family. So appreciate him. I do hope that you'll subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. Share it with your friends. Build our audience. That's what we're trying to do. Get the word out about the Alabama Bass Trail 100, about the Alabama Bass Trail, about the great state of Alabama, all the great places there are to go to fish. We'll talk about some restaurants and things to visit as we get closer to the tournaments. But this is the anything and everything you need to know about Alabama and bass fishing right here on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. Thank you so much to everyone. I do want to send out a special thank you to Ben Cole from Steady Link Media. I'm getting this to him kind of late tonight. I appreciate him taking time to get it produced for you. He produces all of our podcasts. So thank you, Ben, at Steady Link Media. Make sure you hug your loved ones. Give that fur baby a little extra treat, a little extra love. Enjoy and be present where your feet are. I know that's one thing that Gerald really talked about. Enjoy where you are, be present where your feet are. And until we see you next week, peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.